Hi everyone, I'd like to thank you for coming to our talk today. Don't Quit Now, Monitoring Learner Volatility and Second Language Willingness to Communicate in a Gamified Course. So a little bit about the study. The data in this study comes from a gamified Moodle course that offered Japanese junior high students opportunities to practice pronunciation and communication in video forums. So, based on the logs from the course, we developed a measurement framework to facilitate the investigation of learner volatility, second language willingness to communicate, and learner interactions. And our goal for this exploratory project was to identify potentially interesting patterns of user behavior that can be monitored and considered in the development of future courses. And so a little bit about the background. The main goal of the course was to increase willingness to communicate, which is the readiness to enter into discourse at a particular time with a specific person or persons using L2. And so of particular interest to us in this study is McIntyre and Doucette 2010. They're finding that willingness to communicate is related to tendencies for a disruption in action control. And action theory explains individual differences and tendencies based on links to basic brain functions such as excitement and inhibition. So the second language learner's decision to initiate communication will definitely be affected by this. And in particular, we're looking at learner volatility. So we want to look at the logs to see if there's any hesitation or the opposite, where there's persistence. So the objective is to capture learner volatility in a gamified course so we can include it in future iterations. And so gamification is really important to the study because it's what motivates students to keep trying and encourages them to keep practicing a second language. So just a little background about gamification. It originated from and is most popularly used by businesses wishing to engage customers with a specific product or service. So like the businesses where you can rate a meal and write a review of it, and the more reviews you write, you can gain badges and climb leaderboards and have a respected opinion eventually. And so this is just a basic example of gamification using game-like elements in non-gaming context. And as we know, this has become really popular in education. So to develop gamification a little more, the course that we're going to talk about in this study is framed within persuasive technology, which is the use of computers to persuade individuals in ways that humans are not able to. And the way that computers can persuade is through data presentation, providing vicarious experiences, and giving immediate feedback and interaction with the course. So this is known as captology, and so you can persuade as a tool. So for example, students practice pronunciation and then they unlock 5 coins, and those coins go to a leaderboard where they can climb up to the top and be recognized for their efforts. Now, not graded, but just recognized for trying, the amount of times they've tried. And they can have a conversation, so as a medium, they can send a video to other students, and they can record it as many times as they want, or they can listen to another student's video as many times as they want. So they can have the vicarious experience of a conversation without actually having the consequences of a communication breakdown in a real conversation. And finally, as a social actor, they receive feedback, they receive points, they unlock new levels. Everything happens immediately, unlike a traditional classroom where they may have to wait days or even a week to receive feedback from a teacher. And so in order to gamify a course, Moodle's a good option because, as Pastor Pina et al. 2015 point out, there's a constant flow of user-generated plugins, and a lot of them are gamified. So they talk about the function of gamification. It should promote progressive learning, socialization, feedback, and rewards. And the gamified elements that do this, you can use maps and levels to promote progressive learning. So students are going through missions instead of just doing a series of activities. And they can socialize with each other, collaborate on missions, send chats, see each other on the leaderboards, see their profiles. When they do something, they receive immediate feedback. They take a quiz and they get an instant grade with possibly pre-programmed feedback from the teacher in it. And they're rewarded for it through points, badges, coins, public recognition on leaderboards. And so the Moodle examples are for progressive learning. You have themes, so this uses a grid theme. Labels, they unlock coins, and conditions to access. They have to do things in a certain order to unlock the activities. To socialize, as I mentioned, they use forums and chats. And for feedback on quizzes, they receive immediate feedback. And also the restrict access, they open things up immediately. And finally, rewards are mostly done through gamified plugins, but labels are also effective in rewarding the students. So as a result of all these elements, the choice for the course was English Detective, which is a gamified Moodle course where students did different activities and missions, and they would unlock coins in the form of labels for doing activities. Those would go to a leaderboard, and for every 25 points on the leaderboard, they'd receive a badge. So they did activities like watching pronunciation videos, doing pronunciation listening quizzes, and particularly watching the speaker's mouth to see if they could see their tongue for onset L&R words. So that was a main thing they focused on. And finally doing text-to-speech cards in order to prepare for conversation forums where they would send videos to each other. And so they talked about their favorite objects. This student discussed sweets, and this one talked about her cat. So this gave students opportunities to rehearse communication and having second language discussions without the pressure of doing it in front of their peers in a traditional classroom setting, and they received all the immediate feedback in the form of gamified points, experience points going to the leaderboard, and giving them badges. To measure the effect that the gamified course had on willingness to communicate and pronunciation, a series of paired samples t-tests were done. Now it should be noted that only 11 students were in the study and it lacked a control group. But based on the results, all of the scores were normally distributed, free of skew and kurtosis. The Shapiro-Wilk test was applied to all of the scores, and there were no extreme scores or outliers. So it's all normally distributed data, even though it is a small n size. So based on those results, the students did a pre and post willingness to communicate survey that was adapted from Baron Lucar's 2014, which was a study about willingness to communicate in the foreign language classroom. And the students had a statistically significant increase in willingness to communicate over the course of the study with a decent effect size of 0.79. They also improved at pronunciation on a pre and post test R&L pronunciation test with a large effect size of 0.1 or 1.83. So to better understand these findings, the goal of this talk is to get into data mining, particularly in Moodle. So Romero et al. 2008 point out that traditional approaches to data mining are hypothesis-driven and that an inductive approach discovers hidden information in the data. And so, for example, volatility in this case, we can find out where students may be more or less persistent. And the knowledge gained from this enters the iterative loop of mining Moodle data, so we include it in future courses. So the objective is we want to capture these patterns that we can consider when building courses in the future. And so if we look at the iterative loop, we have collect the Moodle data. We'll just start at the top. So collect the Moodle usage data, pre-process it, apply data mining algorithms, then interpret, evaluate, and deploy results, and finally back into the database to start the loop again. So with this in mind, the research questions that we're trying to answer are what hidden usage patterns are present in the course? So that's a general question. And more specifically, what do the usage patterns suggest about learner persistence when it comes to participating in the video discussion forum? I'm now going to hand it over to my colleague Emily to finish the talk. Thank you.